Look, covering the NFL as a whole is not an easy job. I know that for a fact. But still, when you venture outside of your comfort zone and talk about teams that you might not be so familiar with, you got to know your facts. And that's why these three takes about the Bucs offseason have me absolutely hot. I'm Evan Winter with A to Z Sports. It's time to vent. So, like I said, with all due respect, it's not easy covering the NFL as a whole. Okay. Got that loud and clear. But the slightest bit of inaccurate analysis can totally make your point or your debate, whatever it is that you're engaging in. It can totally throw whatever you're wanting to say out the window. And that's exactly what's going on with the Buccaneers and a few topics surrounding their offseason. So, number one is the fact that the Buccaneers could not retain Mike Evans. Man, don't even get me started on this. So many people are docking the Buccaneers points on their offseason because they apparently could not keep Mike Evans, the stalwart, legendary franchise receiver. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, 11 straight seasons with 1,000 yards, just an absolute Buccaneers icon. And yeah, it was painful to watch him go, but the Bucs did everything that they could to try to keep him. They offered him more money than the San Francisco 49ers. Jason Light is on record saying that, and they did it from the jump. Evans just did not want to be there anymore. And it's a combination of things. Why? I mean, last year's, frustrating collapse would be hard for any respected veteran to take, especially one, like I said, with Hall of Fame caliber resume behind his or for his career. And then second off, he just wanted a fresh start. He wanted a chance to continue to add to his career stats as well as another ring. And the San Francisco 49ers, they gave him that best opportunity in his mind. He took less money, considerably less money, to go play with the 49ers in an offense that's really going to be suited really well for his skill set. So the Buccaneers, answer me this. If the guy was always going to leave and there was nothing that you could do to keep him, how is that considered a failure? It makes no sense at all. It would be like my son, my 6-year-old son, getting mad at me because I didn't get him a Mercedes for Christmas. Like, dude, you're not going to use it anyway for another 10 years. Plus, I just can't afford it. But you see what I mean? Like, there's just no reason to dock the Buccaneers points for not being able to keep Mike Evans because they weren't ever going to be able to in the first place because he wanted to go. I'm just so tired of people just sitting here acting like the Buccaneers, they let one of the best player, if not the best player of all time with their franchise walk. That's not what happened. So let's put a sock in it moving forward and stop bringing up that nonsense. Next up is people saying that the Buccaneers should have kept Jamel Dean. Kind of falls in the same line as Mike Evans, but there's a lot more history to that than it is with Evans. And it starts with the fact that the Buccaneers made Jamel Dean take a pay cut to stay on the team in 2025. In addition to that, they took a year off of his contract. He was supposed to be under contract through the 2026 season, but when the Buccaneers went through the pay cut with him last summer, they also wiped off that final year of his deal, making him a free agent going into this past offseason. And so the whole thing with that is Jamel Dean and the Buccaneers were always headed toward a split. The pay cut was a prime example, but it's just because the dude just can't stay healthy. I mean, unfortunately, he's never played a full season in the NFL. And he also has had ball production issues. Coach Bowles, Todd Bowles has even said it himself multiple times whenever Dean was around. He would always say, Dean drops the ones he should catch and then catches the ones that he shouldn't. It's always been like that. It was a really frustrating tenure. I mean, don't get me wrong. The dude was definitely worth the 3rd-round pick. He was worth the contract investment that the Buccaneers signed him to, a few years ago. But just ultimately, he could never reach his full ceiling because of injuries and the lack of ball production. And so coming off a career year, especially with the deal that he signed with the Steelers, I think it was like a little bit less than $13 million per year, an affordable deal for a starting cornerback. People look at that in hindsight and are like, oh my God, the Buccaneers should have paid him that. They could have paid him that. The guy was coming off a career year. He did this, he did that. No, stop. None of that makes any sense. It was already headed for a split. Even if Jamel Dean was a first-team All-Pro, set the NFL record for interceptions in a single season last year, just did all this amazing stuff, the chances of him coming back were never good. Honestly, they probably were less than 1%. The coaching staff, Jason Light, they were frustrated with it. He was a known product at this point. And so they let him walk. And that made all the sense in the world because they also drafted Benjamin Morrison in the second round last year, along with Jacob Parrish in the third round last year. And then they added Keontae Scott. I mean, now that was obviously after the fact, but still, the Buccaneers always had a plan to retool the secondary without Jamel Dean. And that's exactly what they did during the offseason. So enough with the Bucs should have kept Jamel Dean coming off a career year. No, that's just not how it goes. That's not how it was going to go, no matter what. So again, move on. Stop docking the Bucs for not wanting to, I guess, however you want to phrase it, but stop docking them points for letting Jamel Dean walk after a career year. It was always going to happen. And then last up on this list are the people griping about how Cade Otton didn't deserve the deal that he received from the Buccaneers. 3 years, $30 million, $20 million of that guaranteed. Essentially, the first 2 years are locked in, 2026 and 2027. And people just don't think that Cade Otton is that good of a player for some reason, unless you've been following the Buccaneers over the course of his career since 2022. Cade Otton is one of the more underrated all-around tight ends in the NFL. He can block. He can line up and catch passes, whether it be in the slot. He's even been played outside on certain times, but he obviously inline guy, Y tight end, your traditional, basic tight end. But he does a lot of things at an above average level at minimum. And so he is currently one of the more productive tight ends since 2022 as well. If you go back and look at the stats, I think he's 12th or 13th in total receptions since 2022. He's about 17th in yards since 2022. Now, where you can make your case for Cade Otton's lack of productivity is in the touchdown area. He's only got 11 receiving touchdowns over the course of his career. He hasn't really ever established himself as kind of a red zone guy and whatnot. But there have also been a lot of different elements over the course of his career that have kept him from reaching, George Kittle-like numbers, if we want to put it that way. In 2022, that was obviously an awful year for the Bucs offense as a whole, and that was Otton's rookie year. That's whenever Byron Leftwich was calling the shots, Tom Brady was declining, all that jazz. And Cade Otton was just kind of going with the flow, and he still had a decent year that year. Last year, he was asked to block a whole lot more than usual, and he was asked to chip a whole lot more than usual because of all of the issues on the offensive line. The Buccaneers needed him to do more of the dirty work than they needed him in the passing game, especially with guys like Emeka Egbuka just taking the top off the NFL for the first 6 to 7 weeks of the season. He's always been durable. He's always been around. He's always been reliable, and he's a great teammate. Cade Otton, his contract is not that bad either whenever you look at the official rankings. And yeah, his contract, you look at the details, it's nothing like eye-popping either. People just see these numbers and they're like, oh my God, this guy got what? His APY is ranked 17th among all tight ends, $10 million per year, which is right about right whenever you take on the production numbers that I just mentioned. And then, now granted, his total amount is top 12 amongst tight ends, and then his guaranteed money is top 12 as well. So you can make a case there. That's kind of where the contractual elements don't work in his favor. But overall, Cade Otton is a very good player. He got paid a decent amount of money that wasn't backbreaking for the Buccaneers. And again, I know people see these numbers, 3 years, $30 million, and that's more money than I'll ever see in my lifetime, probably times 10. But still, in terms of the vacuum of an NFL franchise, an NFL player, and just the NFL market for the tight end position, it's a really good deal for Otton, and he deserved every single penny. So stop saying otherwise. Whew, that was a good vent session. I'm glad I was able to get all that out. What do you think? Do you agree? Am I way off? Are there more Buccaneers on here, more bad takes on here that need to be wiped off the face of the earth before training camp starts? Let me know and we'll talk about it.